Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Indias of Truth, and back with a shirt. Not like last time they had that,
Yeah. So we got the
yes,
yeah.
that is a powerful shirt. Is that fire? Or what is that?
Yeah, it looks like well, here I'll stand up a
Is
little
that
bit.
my aunt?
It's a sunset.
Okay, okay.
Sunset.
I was gonna say, was that Hawaii, or
Yeah.
Maui, or
Oh,
Los Angeles?
it's Florida looking to the west.
Yeah, yeah. I was on a show when the fires were in Los Angeles, and I didn't realize what kind of a show it was, a new show, talk show. And there was a bunch of experts, and Tara Reid was on there too. And they're talking about the conspiracies that this is maybe a conspiracy to burn Los Angeles. Like, this is the biggest conspiracy of all. It's called mass negligence and corruption
Yeah.
because, 30 years of just stealing the budgets and so on. But then all of a sudden, so they get all the experts and then realize just what kind of level show is on. Like, well, we have this other two guests, and they're sitting in the front row of the audience, husband and wife, who say it's UFOs, and, and you can see, in all the smoke. They're showing this video, and you can see it's a plane coming in it's in the smoke, so you only
Yeah.
get a little bit of silhouette. But it's one of those fire planes dropping a load in, coming in. Like those are aliens shooting Los Angeles and burning it. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then the guy comes out with California, and he reinterprets it through numbers into Russian, and Cali is in California, and Cali is the goddess of death and destruction, and you're sitting like, why did I come on this show? Why?
Oh boy.
Sorry, that was
No,
off on a
no, no,
tangent.
no. Yeah. We'll stay away from UFOs. We got enough craziness going on with Trump. Good God.
Speaking of craziness and Trump, how about that declaration of Trump's manifesto on Venezuela?
Yeah, they've stolen our land and stolen our oil. I go, when did that happen? You know,
Did they know they stole that oil? That
yeah.
that, that oil never belonged to them?
Well, and there was just a report out in the last half hour. I don't know if you've seen it, claiming that Trump is announcing he's supposed to have a speech to the American public at 9 p.m. Eastern tonight,
I've heard that, yes.
which will be 5 a.m. Moscow time. And reportedly, he's going to announce that the United States is going to war with Venezuela. Uh, I,
Congress vote
you know, why doesn't
declaration
he
of
just
war?
show up on television with a gun, put it to his head, and press the trigger? I mean, it'll be a little easier form of suicide than what he's committing. He is, if he does this, if he decides to initiate a war with Venezuela, those analysts and military advisors who have convinced him that this would be an easy win, we'll go in, we'll settle, Maduro will be gone. He doesn't understand Venezuela. I've been there. It is rugged terrain, three times the size of Vietnam, triple canopy jungle, mountains. Uh, it's the kind of place that if you put a U.S. soldier on the ground, I don't care if they're Delta Force, the opportunity to ambush their ass is great. It's not like in Afghanistan or Iraq where, man, you got some standoff distance. You're not going to necessarily sneak up and through the jungle on anybody because there ain't no jungle. You know, the bare ass mountains and desert, but not in Venezuela. And then you've got the issue with the borders of Brazil and Colombia, also with Guyana, but Brazil and Colombia in particular, which means the ability to get across border for safe haven, high, ability to resupply cross border, high, uh, the capability of the West to interdict that, very, very low, very low. And then, you know, the target to get 18,000 troops in place for this. In Vietnam at the top, we had 543,000 troops. And that was in April of 1969. I looked that up. We don't even have 500,000 ground forces in the U.S. Army right now. We're around 460.
Oh, but
So
they want to make
it's
Ukraine
insanity.
Ukraine wants to have an army of 800,000.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense with a population of 19 million. Yeah,
Yeah,
God. Yeah.
but well,
Well, and that suggestion comes, it's Britain, France, UK, who have a combined population of 220 million, and their combined ground forces are less than 500,000. And they want Ukraine with only 19 million people to pony up 800,000. Yeah,
wait a minute, wait a minute. That's as long as somebody else is paying. That's one way to get rid of
yeah,
unemployment.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Or someone in the uniform.
yeah. Exactly right. So it's just,
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, let's presume, and there's probably a good chance of it, that Trump manages to kill Maduro.
mhm.
Then what? Okay,
Yeah,
he kills Maduro. He puts Machado in power as the Praetorian Guard. I guess the U.S. would have to be the Praetorian Guard. Then what?
okay. So that means if you put her in power and you've got U.S. soldiers protecting her, then you're going to have U.S. soldiers dying.
Yeah.
So part of part of what I think is going on is I'll call a lot of this right now military theater. Back in 1988, when I was still at CIA, I was in the Central American branch, and so we covered Guatemala, Salvador, Honduras, Costa Rica, and Panama. Nicaragua was a separate branch. An entire branch dealt with Nicaragua.
Wow.
So the Panamanian analyst, a gal named Alicia, um, in '88, she was being brought into confidence by the Directorate of Operations. So we're in the Directorate of Intelligence, Directorate of Operations, the other side of the building, and they're briefing her on what they're doing. So what they were doing, starting in like January of 1988, they conducted a series of provocations, trying to, doing the equivalent of finger poking Manuel Noriega in the chest, trying to get him to throw a punch back, trying to get him to react. And he didn't react until late, probably November. And then that's when we invaded in early December 1988. So I think what the United States has been doing is trying to provoke Maduro into taking some sort of action that we can sell as hostile action against us to justify military operation. Now, I don't think it's going to work, but if Trump's stupid enough to come out tonight and call for going to war with uh, Venezuela, then he better be going to Congress to get a declaration of war. Barring that, then he's breaking the law. He's violating his constitutional oath, and
Well, let
it's
me
just
ask you
going to
this.
reinforce his lack of popularity.
If he's declared a blockade, is that not an act of war already?
Well, yeah, it is, but let's be. It's one of again. This is more for public show
Hmm.
because the actual blockade is on ghost ships. So um, if uh, if Russia, well, let's take China. If China, who does have flagged oil tankers under the Chinese flag, decides to sell into a port in Venezuela and load up with oil and sell out, if the United States tried to interfere with that, that would be an act of war against China
Yeah.
because China is not under any sanctions and China is selling under its own flag. I sort of hope the Chinese do that just to push the issue to press it. What Trump is going after are these other ships that are um, being used to carry Russian oil or Iranian oil.
Privately
Uh,
owned small companies
right.
or individual ownership. Because I think if a Russian ship came in there with a destroyer escort, just even one escort, I don't think the U.S. would do anything. It would go,
No. Yeah. I think they want to avoid a conflict. I would
yeah.
hope, but it's dangerous. Trump is, uh, he claims to be want to be the peace president, but he's taking actions that are promoting war, not peace.
Well, no, 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 wait a minute, You're not looking at this correctly. If I bomb Venezuela today and declare victory tomorrow, well, doesn't matter what I
Yeah.
do, I just declare victory. That's the ninth war I've stopped.
Yep. Yep. Peace. Peace.
Dude, I could do this every. Let's bomb Colombia, and then there's another war I just stopped. Panama. Trump could have like 20, 30 wars stopped under his belt by the end of the year.
Yeah, it's certainly disrupting his narrative. Now, again, this reports in the press attributing it to J.D. Vance. I still I find
Vance.
it difficult to believe that Trump is going to go on and declare that we're going to go on a war footing with Venezuela
Jeez.
because it's at a time where his popularity is falling. It's not increasing.
Oh yeah. Well, the economy. Yeah. I'm not in the U.S. I haven't been in the U.S. since 18. Well, I've been to the U.S. since 18. I've been in the U.S. since 10. But I've got plenty of friends, and you and other people, plenty of friends, are telling me how much prices have gone up,
Yeah,
and it's painful. Jeez.
yeah. I give a simple example. A year ago, a year and a half ago, so I got two Rottweilers, and I buy like 3 pounds of hamburger that's in a roll.
Hmm.
And a year and a half ago, as I was paying like 12, $13 for that. Today, I'm paying $20. So yeah,
I had a friend of mine. He went to. This is not the U.S., of course, but this is still the West. He lives in Europe. He moved from the U.S. to the Balkans, and he and his wife went to Paris for the Christmas markets. It's like, he's like, Stas, I bought a hamburger. I'm sorry. He bought a hot dog, a side order of fries, and a small glint wine from a stand. So you're not in a restaurant, from a
yeah,
stand. Like 25 euro.
yeah, yeah. That sounds
It's
like a visit
insane.
to Disney World in Orlando.
Yeah.
Yeah, terribly expensive.
Street fare.
Yeah.
Just street fare.
You know where the food is cheap and great? Da Nang, Vietnam.
I've never been there, but I'd like to go.
Yeah, yeah. I've watched some videos on it. They got great street food, and it is you can eat like a king for a couple of dollars,
What?
or
Yeah,
a couple, for 160 rubles.
yeah. I was in the center of Moscow today. I took a shawarma. Shawarma, for those that don't know what it is, it's like a big roll with chicken and some and green stuff. Um, in there, about this big. Yeah, about that big. It was 400 rubles, so that's
About five
about
bucks.
$5. Cooked on the spot, put together. It's still hot. A decent amount of chicken and sauce in there. So yeah, $5. Middle of
Yeah,
Moscow. Moscow's not cheap.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But quality of life in Moscow exceeds that of quality of life in, say, Washington, D.C. or New York City or San Francisco.
Wait a minute, wait, that's not fair. Washington's half ghetto, half super expensive. So which one, the ghetto or the super expensive?
Yeah, yeah,
When I tell people that there's no middle class in Washington, like, what do you mean? Well, the clerks live outside of Washington and they commute in and out, and that super traffic jams.
yeah.
It's only either the rich or the poor. There's that total stratification. Uh,
Yeah, actually, I was up in D.C. on Friday. I attended the Russian embassy. It was hosting an American professor who's a world expert on Russian architecture.
hmm,
And
cool.
so that was pretty interesting.
Did did you catch any flack for going across the evil line to the Russian?
No, not yet. Uh,
Good, good.
I kept, they don't even, they sanctioned Jacques Baud in
I
Switzerland, and I stay off the list. They got this guy, John Michael Dugan. The Europeans put him on the list. I've never really heard of the guy.
who's John Michael? I mean, I know Dugan, but who's John Michael Dugan?
John Michael Dugan was a cop in Florida,
Oh,
and
I know who he is. Yeah, I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah. So and now he defected to Russia, but it's like the Europeans are acting like he's some big influencer or some has a presence. I haven't seen him on any of the podcasts that I think dominate. Where you're talking Judge Napolitano, Nima, the Duran, and then a variety of others.
I met him, and now I'm thinking because I'm bad with names. It's my curse. I met him, and I remember he actually when he first got to Russia, he was on a lot of these, and then he just went silent. And he's doing some IT work. He's a IT guy. Now, well, he retrained himself as an IT guy. So he's yeah. I haven't seen him. God, I since about 2018. I think for about 2 years he was popping on different shows and just
Hmm.
petered out, and then that's it. He's living his own life, and you know, how did he get on there?
Yeah, the Europeans, he must have had a bad, romantic relationship with Kaya Kallas or something. I don't know.
Maybe
So,
maybe have a van der Line,
yeah, yeah,
Fuhrer line.
but
Um, yeah, I'm surprised I haven't been sanctioned by name by them.
yeah, well, yeah, it's interesting that, um, you know, you got Mearsheimer, McGregor, Ritter has been, but a lot of
Has
us,
he?
yeah, I think so.
Hmm.
He's on Mirtovets, the
Oh, so am
Ukrainian
I,
death
and
list.
so are you, by the way.
Am I?
Go check yourself. Yeah, I'm
I,
pretty sure you are.
I checked. I couldn't find myself. I thought,
Hmm,
man,
maybe they didn't. That's
I'm
interesting.
insulted. I guess they think I'm not important enough. Uh,
Well, by the way, that gets me. Mirotvorets. Mirotvorets means peacemaker, by the way. That's what the word
okay.
means. Okay, they're looking, I think, more like the peacemaker, like the cold peacemaker in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
case. Um, but it's where it's registered?
Yeah, in Langley in McLean, Virginia.
So America's proxy, for the audience, in case they're not following this, I'm sure they are though. So you've got an American proxy with a murder, death, kill list of which they've killed people. It has dozens of American citizens on it, and it's hosted. I guess I mean that's
Yeah.
the whole match out of Langley, Virginia,
Or actually
home of the
McLean.
CIA.
Yeah, McLean, which is right, CIA neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, just off of Chain Bridge Road, 123.
So
So,
how do you take that the U.S. government has no problem with a proxy with a murder their kill list with dozens of American citizens on it,
this is not the first time. We got CIA's been doing this for, let's see, 78 years.
killing
So,
Americans?
yeah,
Really?
yeah. It's just if
Hmm.
the Americans get in the way, you know, they get killed. It happened in Chile. It happened in Vietnam. Um,
In Vietnam,
so
really?
yeah,
Who did they
and
kill?
then let's not forget as well. Obama more recently,
Oh, yeah.
he ordered the death of Al-Awlaki, an American citizen, and his 17-year-old son.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, um, this is reprehensible, but
yeah.
it happens.
Well, wait a minute. With Obama, there, I remember the shitstorm that hit for about a week in the media. I mean, it was very intense, and then, okay, well, they're
Yeah,
dead, dead. You can't
no
bring them
big
back to
deal.
life. Yeah,
Yeah,
don't
no
kill
big
anyone
deal.
else this week, at least. Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah,
CAA's, so much for protect and.
yeah. No, it's bad in that regard. Um, and so we've lost our way morally. I mean, right now, there's extrajudicial killings that have been taking place off the coast of Venezuela.
Yeah.
And most Americans don't blink an eye. They go, "Oh, okay, yeah, they probably deserved it," without thinking of through the process of under our Constitution, the government is not given permission to kill anybody that it wants just because it decides that they're both bad.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, fine. Trump, Hegseth, whatever. U.S. military personnel, all the officers get briefed on this. So do the sergeants.
right,
Rules of
right.
war, all this. How many of them are now viable to stand trial for?
If we use the Nuremberg standard, all of them. Because during your time in the service, did you ever see rules of engagement that allowed you to kill somebody just that if you suspected they were bad? They didn't have to be carrying a weapon. You could just believe that they were engaged with some sort of illegal activity. Because I never saw that. I was involved over 23-year period working with JSOC, scripting exercises that involved either SEAL Team 6 or Delta Force or 75th Rangers. I never saw a rule of engagement, the ROE, that gave the shooters permission to just kill somebody because they thought they were bad.
Oh hell no! Listen, the worst ROE that I ever had was in Macedonia, which declared that even if your one of your guys is now laying dead with his lungs hanging on a tree, you're supposed to drop back, pull your UN flag, and scream "Stойте я UN или я пукам," which in Bulgarian and Serbian means "Stop, I'm UN," or "I'll shoot." And in Russian translates "Stop, I'm UN," or "I'll fart." More of what we're not, effectively.
Oh my God, that's a real threat.
Yeah, well, fart, damn it. Well, fart your way. And we patrolled in a gaggle. That was an order to patrol in a gaggle with a patrol dog running up and down and yapping and a blue UN flag and the caps so that nobody could mistake you for a military unit. Literally, we were told that. Like, we are a military unit. Okay, I'm gonna shame.
Yeah,
I'm gonna hang my head in shame right now.
that thing called uniforms that we're wearing, and you were carrying sidearms and rifles.
Yes, we were, but our magazines were taped up and in our vests, literally
Yeah,
with duct tape on the magazine. So you'd have to peel the duct tape up before slamming the magazine. I told my guys, look, if anybody, because all it may be maybe a hunter instead of the Albanian mafia that was operating those areas. I told my guys right that somebody opens fire on us, we'll kill anything that moves, and that's shooting at us, and I'll take the heat if I need to, because if they open fire, they've opened fire.
yeah,
To,
yeah,
to
yeah.
mistake us for some deer, yeah, okay. Five guys, a dog yelling, yapping around, and we're walking in a gaggle. Oh yeah, we're a deer. If they're shooting at us, they know what they're shooting at.
Right,
So,
right.
but no, no, to just shoot at somebody because no, never. Good Lord. No, no, no JAG lawyer, even Lindsey Graham would have signed off on that one.
Yeah, yeah. No, this it is. What Trump is doing is just beyond reckless. It's illegal. Now the other problem they got, and I don't know if how much did you deal with the issue of what's called the supported commander vice the supporting commander? Did that
No.
okay? So in the course of doing all these exercises for his counterterrorism mission, yeah, inevitably if there is like a terrorist incident that's in the CENTCOM area of responsibility, military speak AOR,
Hmm.
or in the AFRICOM AOR, or in EUCOM AOR, when the initial warning order goes out telling
Hmm.
JSOC, okay, stand up SEAL Team 6 or stand up JSOC or stand up Delta, tell them to get ready to roll. And so they get that alert warning order. And then it's up to the the either SEAL Team 6 or Delta Force commander to come back with concept of operation.
Hmm.
So they were warned what the problem was. So what's their proposed solution? So they have to come back and rapidly put together and that okay, what other units are we going to need to support us? So then the issue becomes if they're flying into the CENTCOM AOR, who's in charge? Is it the commander of CENTCOM or is it the commander of JSOC?
Hmm.
Which
No.
is it?
Yeah.
And then it got really interesting when you had two competing commands, let's say AFRICOM and what's now known as INDOPACOM. So they would bump up against each other. And if you had something taking place at like Antananarivo, and so you had both commanders, then the issue was going to figure out who's in charge. So normally the theater syncs, like in this case, Southern Command, Southcom, would be the supported commander, that means JSOC would be reporting through that supported commander. But it looks like what they did is they put JSOC as the supported commander, putting Southcom as a subordinate,
Hmm.
which may be one of the reasons that Admiral Halsey resigned. Once they put that kind of command relationship in, he just said, And I'm not supporting this circus. So I don't mean to take over, but it's important to take people into the
Oh
weeds to
yeah,
understand
absolutely,
how
absolutely.
this sort of lash up happens, and that the kinds of competition that arise. That because the last thing, if Trump is going to go to war in Venezuela, and he leaves JSOC as the supported commander, it'll be a big disaster because JSOC is not a conventional military force. JSOC is at best light infantry
Yep.
and a light infantry company. They're not they're not they don't come in as a battalion or a regiment or a brigade.
Yeah.
They're basically actually less than company size elements, the different teams.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
And that's something most people understand because they watch Hollywood. Specialist operators do not make infantry. They
yeah,
die as infantry.
yeah,
They're outgunned. They're out specialized in hard combat. They're in there to do specialized missions, assassinations, demolitions, training, insurgents, whatever. They don't make good line infantry because that's not their
yeah.
profession.
That's not what they do. They don't train for that. That was brought home to me by, so I worked for a retired Marine '06, a colonel, and he'd done 2 tours in Vietnam. And when Grenada happened, he had actually or he had actually been deployed as his final assignment in the military to work in the Bureau of Political and Military Affairs at the State Department. And so he ended up doing a lot of
Cush.
coordination during that operation. There was a Navy SEAL unit that was detailed to go in and secure the governor of Grenada and his staff. And the guy that led that was later he was a commander. I guess he left as a captain. His name was Rick Woolard,
Hmm.
but I think at the time he was a lieutenant commander. He was a veteran of Vietnam, and so he secured the governor. And then he and his group of SEALs carrying MP5s that are shooting basically 9 millimeter rounds at the time, they got pinned down by some Cubans that were shooting 50 caliber machine guns. And
That's
they
nasty
they
round.
they had to hang out and wait until a Marine unit had landed and then came driving up. A tank unit came driving up to save them. And
Yeah.
my boss was always, not just because they were Marines, but he was saying this is an example of what the limitations are when
Oh yeah.
when you're facing superior fire and you've got inadequate response. Uh, so that is if they're relying upon Navy SEALs and Delta Force, special forces to go into Venezuela to try to turn the situation around, they're going to find out that doesn't work that easily.
Wait a minute, Larry. Are you trying to tell me that the enemy will not just run out in the middle of an open field in a nice little row, like they do, for
Yeah.
Rambo movies, and just stand there suicidally and just shoot randomly at you while you're mowing them
Yeah.
down? You
So,
really mean they don't do that?
yeah. So they're gonna say no, we're not doing that. Not so much.
Not today. Maybe tomorrow, but not today.
Well, and we have no idea what kind of there are rumors afoot that both Russia, China, and maybe Iran have provided a variety of weaponry to Venezuela for self-defense.
Well,
And
Venezuela does have Garand or Shahid or maybe both drones, which the
okay,
Grands are no longer Shahids. They originally were Shahids, but they've adapted and they're on third, fourth generation now, including jet engine
yeah,
blocks on
yeah,
them.
yeah. This looking at where the U.S. forces, the naval
Hmm.
forces, are positioned, it looks like they're concerned about that scenario, and that they're staying far enough offshore that they can't be reached. But also, they have flown aircraft over the Gulf of Venezuela, I think, in an attempt to try to provoke the
Hmm.
Venezuelans into firing on them, and Venezuela didn't take the bait.
Well, the Grand drones can go about 300 kilometers. sometimes more, depending on which type of drone. Are they that far out to sea?
I'm not sure. It
That's
looks
pretty
like it.
far for
Yeah.
that kind of.
Well, at this point, all they're launching are jet fighters.
Hmm.
So, but we'll see what happens if like I'm hoping this is just some bad report and out of rumors flowing around.
Yeah.
And all Trump's going to do tonight is brag what a great job he's been doing.
Have you seen any of the Trump cabinet meetings?
Yeah, but I wanted to get the chapstick concession on that because there's so much ass kissing going on. People's lips are drying out.
It,
You
it
know,
reminds me, it quite literally, and it reminds me of the videos that used to come out. Well, videos, the films from the late 1920s, early 1930s of Soviet cabinet meetings where you are our greatest hope. You have
yeah,
done greatly. We want to celebrate you. Oh, thank you. Oh, let me kiss your ass a little more, Comrade Secretary of the People's
yeah,
Union. Oh, great. The only thing they didn't have was like the 10 minutes of clapping.
yeah. Well, or the North Korean meetings with Kim Jong Un or
Oh, yeah.
Kim Jong Il. Yeah, same thing. So the joke's on us, but you know Trump doesn't see it. He is such a narcissist, and it gets worse as he gets older.
Right.
I don't know if you've had to deal with elderly parents yet, but I
Yeah,
have.
my father died 2 years ago, and he had dementia after a second stroke, but it was kind of a light dementia. I mean, he had its quirks, and his short-term memory was crap. Didn't affect his long-term memory, but the last 3 months he descended into just total raving dementia. It was horrible to watch.
Yeah.
It's just wow.
Well, yeah, I saw with my mother in particular. Uh, she was always, in her younger days, really a very pleasant, sweet-natured personality. But as she got older, particularly once she got into her 80s, that nice, warm, cuddly personality got a little sharp edge on it, and her instead of sort of an organic flow of conversation, it had become very stilted. Yes,
Hmm. Hmm.
no, sharp. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. My father did the same thing.
and that's what I'm seeing in Donald Trump now.
You think
That
so?
yeah, you saw it the other day when in response to the news about the murder of Rob Reiner and his wife. Rob Reiner was his movie producer,
Oh
director,
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right.
and
I remember reading a blurb about that.
Trump did a Truth Social post on it, basically saying he was killed because of his anger at Donald Trump, which is
What?
yeah, that's what he
What?
wrote. That's what he wrote.
I
And
missed that.
yeah,
Wow.
it's just nuts. No, here, let me
So
stand
what
by.
is Trump saying? He ordered a hit on him? I mean,
Yeah, it
how
was
do you
just
supposed to interpret that one?
so Rob Reiner, he was um, he was a real strong critic of Trump, and as such, let's see here. Is this it?
They were stabbed to death, I think is what the clip
Yeah,
says.
yeah. No, that what happened was their kid killed him. So here's what he wrote.
Oh, geez. Their own
Uh,
kid?
yeah, their own kid.
Jesus.
Well, he had a drug problem and had been in and out of rehab over the years and was undergoing some even psychological changes.
Jesus.
So here's what Trump wrote. He said, "A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling, but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away together with his wife, Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS.
I think
He was
Trump's
known,
so.
yeah. And it's
Oh,
like
jeez. Come on. Seriously?
their kid, 32 years old, I believe, stabbed him to death. And, you know, if Trump had a brain in his head, he would have said something along the lines, I'm sad to report that Rob Reiner, a very talented movie director and comedy star, has died alongside his wife, uh, reportedly because their son, who is afflicted by uh, addiction to illegal drugs, killed them.
Yeah.
And this is just one more reminder of why I am waging the war on these illegal drugs. You know, he at least could have
Right.
justified what he was doing in Venezuela with that, but he didn't. He made it
Jesus.
about that Reiner died because of the anger he caused others through his so-called hatred of Trump. What a
Oh, jeez. That's
yeah,
narcissism. That's serious narcissism.
yeah, but that's
That's
also
incredible.
but it also shows just the lack of judgment that he could he could either write something like that or somebody would write something like that and then he'd send it out without any second thought. It's just that's truly frightening.
That is. So, Larry, let me ask you this. Okay, in your estimate, U.S. gets involved in Venezuela. How long do you think before they're going to have to pull a draft?
Uh, Actually, I think within a couple of months, because yeah, they've claimed that their numbers are way up, but I think the numbers way up compared to Biden doesn't necessarily mean they're way up where they needed to in order to grow the force.
Well,
Um, and let's say that because again, the demands, if you've got a hot war going in Venezuela, you've got troops deployed to the Middle East, you got troops deployed to Syria. So I think the Syrian deployment is going to increase. You know, Trump's been talking about trying to withdraw American soldiers. Now they got two more killed, and I think they're going to put more in.
you serious? So they're going to put more into
Yeah,
Syria?
yeah, I think so. All under the guise of fighting terrorism.
So they're not stealing enough oil yet. They need to steal.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. It's Trump's oil.
yeah. Well, again, that's why I think they're going after Venezuela because they want the oil. That's the ultimate objective.
Yeah, but
But
80% of that oil is inland.
yeah, so you got to go out and secure the route, and you're going to have to, gee, could there be ambushes along the way? Oh yeah, hell yes.
You think drones might fly into the platforms from 10, 15 kilometers out?
Yeah, they just haven't they haven't thought this through. But this kind of planning, the U.S. is terrible at doing it. I mean, I know for a fact that with respect to the first Gulf War, they didn't plan for what next. With the invasion in 2003, they certainly didn't plan for
Oh
what
yeah,
next.
yeah.
Same with Afghanistan. Um, it was, immediate reaction, and then once the the Delta commander on the ground requested 75th Rangers to come in as a blocking force, that was turned down. Well, no, no, we're not going to, So they never approach it with a strategic plan. Whereas I think what we're seeing now in Russia with respect to Ukraine, there is a strategic plan. They're looking at both what do we do to finish demilitarizing Ukraine, but at the same time prepared to engage NATO if they decide to attack.
Yeah,
So they're not
yeah.
waiting until their hair is on fire to come up with a fire prevention program.
Well, that's what a lot of people understand. There's only about 35, 40% of the Russian military force that's engaged. I'm not talking just army, military force in general, that's engaged in Ukraine. The rest,
Hmm.
I mean, there's some in the east, obviously, but they're not afraid of China. It's just in case Japan or the U.S. gets stupid. But the chances of that are actually pretty small. And some along the borders, but the vast majority is still in the West, but they're not part of this fracas.
Yeah, yeah. But Russia's, my understanding is from 2022, Russia had a ground force of about 275,000.
Hmm.
Now they're up around 1.5 million.
I think
And
1.5 million is the entire military combined.
you think the whole
Yeah,
combined?
but the army's gone up probably about 700 to 800,000 right now. So
Yeah,
it's gone up a lot, and
but they're
it's
now
still growing.
they're now in a position that they can carry out sustained attacks along 8 different axes
Oh
that
yeah.
you've talked about.
Well, you've seen the latest video of Zelensky and his great brave trip to the edge of the green screen. I'm sorry, to the edge of Kupiansk. Uh,
Yeah.
and I want to thank personally the two secret agents that Russia used. Those two. I want to call them bimbos, but the airheads that as part of the Ukrainian. I don't know if they were part of the Ukrainian army or they were volunteers. I think they were volunteers to support the Ukrainian army, and they drove out there videotaped. Oh, it doesn't look anything like when Zelensky was standing there 2 days earlier, supposedly. Like, thank you for this. Because
Yeah.
there had
Yeah.
been drones that flew out there that same day, and they videotaped. Like, look, it looks nothing like what's on there. It's much worse condition, and the flags are rotted. So they used old
Well,
videotape.
yeah, yeah, the Ukrainians would do something like that. I mean, it's like they invented this pilot called the Ghost of Kiev, who
Oh
shot down
God.
all these Russian pilots. Yeah.
Just to understand the bravery of Zelensky. So I was in 21, I was on a project in Ukraine in Poltava as a consultant until they found out I was Russian and they told my project director, he's no longer welcome back. Um, and I'm driving back to fly out of Kiev to Istanbul and Istanbul to Moscow. And the driver that was driving was telling me, he used to be a taxi driver in Kiev. And he said, I'll go into this really plush neighborhood to pick up some girl, closed neighborhood, really plush, to pick up some girl, and I can't find her address. And I see this little guy walking a little yap dog. And I
Hmm.
stopped him, the car, and I walk up to him to ask him, and the guy's about my size, to ask him, directions. And this little guy gets really scared and yanks the dog, and he's like this. And then I'm looking at him and I realize, oh, that's Zelensky. So, you're not dealing with a brave man here and his little
Yeah,
yab
yeah,
dog.
yeah.
You're dealing with an absolute coward. So,
Well, at least if you got a little yap dog, he'll fit in well in Florida. You know, one of the most hilarious thing I can show you several guys on my street, big guys, but they got these little bitty dogs that walk, and here you got to walk those kinds of dogs on a leash, because if you don't, the hawks will fly in and the eagles and grab them and fly off with them. Now, I got two Rottweilers. Each weighs, about 135, 140 pounds. So
damn.
big
I thought my
dogs.
dog was big. My dog's nowhere near that big.
Yeah, big
Jeez.
dogs. And the male of that, the female is just sort of fat. I don't know what's going on with her, but the male is like, man, he's like a middle linebacker or a professional fighter. He is just ripped with muscle and lots of energy. But the point is, I don't have to worry about them getting grabbed by an eagle.
We had friends when we lived in Raleigh. Um, the the wife was from Russia. The husband was from Kiev. By the way, he's a super nationalist now, living in the U.S. Of course, nowhere near Ukraine, like most of these super nationalists are. Anywhere but Ukraine. But yeah, we'll fight to the last Ukrainian as long as I'm as far away from Ukraine as
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
be.
As long as I'm not on the list.
But his wife had one of those little yap dogs. It was like freaking this big. She carried it in her purse. And I'm talking to him one day on the phone, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm in the backyard." I'm like, "Why?" "Oh, the dog needs to take a crap." I'm like, "But your backyard's fenced off. Just let him go. Why do you have to wait?" "We have an owl that lives in the trees." Like, "Oh, that's right. It's
Yeah,
just a
yeah,
big rat with long legs that the owl's
yeah,
got to
yeah,
eat."
yeah, yeah. No, it's one of those things you have to think. But anyway, Zelensky, he reportedly has property in Florida, so if he's got the little gay yap dog, he'll fit in fine.
Well, did you hear about the? Well, it's being denied, but I'm not sure how much is being denied. Effectively, that Zelensky's basically become the ninth largest private landowner in the U.S.
Hmm?
after buying a gigantic ranch out in Montana somewhere.
Sure. Well, they've this investigation that's underway at the Department of
Hmm.
War, Department of Defense, involves um, $48 billion that have
Whew,
been taken
small
by
change.
Zelensky and his crowd. And with that, he's been paying off foreign politicians. Uh, I guarantee I haven't been told this directly, but I'd be shocked if the von der Leyen, I mean Ursula von der Leyen and Kaya Kallas haven't got a taste of that. That they've received some donations.
So some of the Zelensky number five, as Christophorus puts it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. The cologne.
Yeah. Well, they keep coming in and out with these little suitcases when they go to see Zelensky. These little metal suitcases. Hmm. You're
Yeah,
in there for one day. How much clothes are you really taking with you?
exactly. Well, hey, you gotta have room to pack the gifts.
Oh yeah. Well, let me ask you this, Graham. So Lindsey Graham, Light in the Loafers, um, last trip to Kiev, put an expense account in for $800,000 for 3 days. Almost $1 million for 3 days on the People's tab. And I remember there was a scandal. Has the scandal died out?
Yeah, yeah,
Anything else come up with that?
yeah. No, they haven't gone after him yet. And
Jeez.
frankly, he's one of those ones that I've been told is on the list of people that have gotten money out of Ukraine.
Oh yeah, of course he has.
Uh,
But Trump's
so
campaigning for him.
and we'll see if they allow an actual prosecution or if they're just going to give him a pass. I worry that I would not worry. I think they'll probably just give him a pass.
Yeah, me too. What do you think? I mean, $800,000 for a penthouse in the Radisson in the middle of Kiev for 3 days.
Yeah,
I don't think it runs that expensive.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, absolutely. This is, that's the problem with Washington now, the incredible levels of corruption. We like to criticize the Ukrainians for their corrupt activities, but my God, we've become world champions at it. We're just better at hiding it, not,
Yeah.
making it less obvious.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I mean, you're absolutely right. And it's not going to get voted out. I don't think like Judge Napolitano says, no matter who you vote for, you get McCain. So,
Yeah, yeah. Which is the unfortunate truth.
yeah, it's incredible. Did you see that the Israelis brought over 1,000 Protestant evangelical preachers? 1,000 Protestant evangelical preachers for a little tour of Israel, and they all come back with, we must give everything to Israel. We must
Yeah, we
support
got to.
Israel no matter what.
Yeah, it's the Zionist counteroffensive. They're counting on Christian Zionists. And I put an article up at my at sonar21.com about 3, 4 days ago on that very subject, because the entire concept of Christian Zionism I put in the same category as communism. It's a perverse, destructive ideology, and it's one based, founded on a number of lies. And the biggest lie is the belief that God chose Abraham and then chose his son Jacob, or I mean Isaac, uh, and then chose Jacob uh, to give, quote, all the blessings of the world to. And out of Isaac, you get, out of Jacob, you get 12 different sons, tribes, um, and that they are supposedly given all this land, all the promise, except 10 of the tribes end up getting swallowed up by history, leaving only two. And now we're supposed to believe that this God who created everybody, created all life, created all men and women, that he likes this group better than everybody else. And therefore, they get to kill whoever they want. It's okay. God says thumbs up. And we're supposed to believe that nonsense. Sorry, I
Well,
don't.
there's 2 points here, interesting points. First of all, the 10 tribes belong to a country called what? Israel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So, and they were swallowed up as punishment from God for what? For becoming absolutely pagan.
yeah, yeah,
They went, and the country that survived and it was conquered by Rome was called Judea.
Right.
So Christ was born in Judea. There was no Israel. There hadn't been an Israel in quite a long time. And Judea survived because it still stayed semi loyal to God, even though they had a lot of paganism in it. As opposed to Israel just went absolute pagan, local pagan ball and all that. So my next question, why did they call the state of Israel Israel, not the state of Judea?
Yeah. Good
Just
question.
out of curiosity, they called it after the state that was destroyed by God, through the Assyrians, if you're following the Bible, for being pagan.
Yeah. No, that's an excellent point.
You know, I just recently was thinking about that. I'm like, well, 'cause it hit me one day because you don't think about it because nobody talks about it, but you start thinking about it, like, wait a minute, but that's the state that got destroyed as
Yeah.
punishment, and then you rename your state as that instead of Judea, which was the historical entity that survived.
Yeah. Or originally they were called Hebrews instead of Jews, but
Right,
uh,
right. Well, Jews is a Germanic, like in Russian, in Slavic, it's Žid.
Ju-
Except in Russian, Žid became as an insult, and Yevrei became the word. But Yevrei is a declination of Juden, and Juden is Jewish
right.
or Jew
Yeah.
in German, and it was just a word declaration. But in all Slavic languages, it's Žid. It's not, yeah, like I said, in Russian, it became an insultive word back about the 1880s. That was, you just use that as like kike, using that word.
Right.
But historically, that just means Jewish.
And that's when the whole Zionist movement started taking off in the 1880s.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But again, the other irony there is the entire premise of Zionism is based on a belief that there was a promise by a deity, God, to a man, Abraham, that is then extended to all of Abraham's, or only a select portion of Abraham's descendants. Yet many of the modern people, the people today that embrace Zionism, don't believe in the Bible. They don't believe that there was God telling Moses this, that, or the other thing. So it's like, if you don't believe in that, then how can you believe in Zionism?
Well, Tel Aviv is the LGBTQ WXYZ capital of the Middle East,
Yeah, yeah,
modern Tel
yeah,
Aviv.
yeah.
Jerusalem is thankfully not, but yeah, it's still pretty religious. But here's another moment to consider. I will say, okay, as a Christian, as an Orthodox Christian, I believe what the Bible says in that case. But here's the point: when Christ came, those that followed Christ were the new Jews, whether or not they were Hebrew by nationality or Gentile, whatever. And Jerusalem was no longer the physical Jerusalem; it's the spiritual Jerusalem,
Right.
the fulfillment of the law, and so on. So when oh, good Lord, what's his name? From Texas.
Oh, Ted
Uh,
Cruz?
Ted Cruz. Yeah, thank you. Ted Cruz. When he says that evil replacement theory is trying to usurp Christianity, but evil replacement theory, that is Christianity. From day one, that was Christianity.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, well, what the Christianity should be is the expression that um, salvation, uh, being at peace with God, is not dependent upon being a member of the right tribe.
Right, right.
That it is universal. It doesn't matter where you were born, who you were
Absolutely.
born to, how much money you had, what color your skin was. That this transcends. It takes you all back to humanity. Um, and that's why, unfortunately, what we're living through right now is the collapse of Europe. Europe at its foundation was based on Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
And yet the perversion of Christianity, first, the separation from the Orthodox faith with the Catholic faith, that was the first real split. Um, the defeat of the Ottoman Empire, and driving the Muslims out of Europe. And then at that point, with the Henry VIII, you get the split, at least in England, with the Catholic Church, the rise of the Church of England. And then around the same time, you get the Protestant movement growing up in Germany with Martin Luther. And so for the next, 300 years, you've got Christian Europe fighting with each other, killing each other.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so this, we're all supposedly Christians, we're all supposedly sons and daughters of God, and we're killing each other in the name of, who knows what. So, um, that's where the European legacy is coming to an end right now, and I think it has serious implications for the Zionist movement, the Christian Zionists. But as you correctly pointed out at the outset, taking 1,000 evangelical pastors to Israel shows that Israel's in trouble. They recognize that they have lost a significant base of support in this country, and they're trying desperately to see if they can salvage it.
You know, eh, and I'm gonna link this to the Bondi Beach massacre, because I'm sure the majority of the people there, or maybe I'm not sure. I don't know them. I don't know them personally, but I'm quite sure quite a few of those people were probably not Zionists, because if you look
Right,
at a lot of the demonstrations, the younger Jews in the U.S. are at the head of these demonstrations with these slogans, "Not in my name."
right.
I'm Jewish, but Israel doesn't talk for me. Um, Even though Israel's trying to say, we're the only Jewish state, we talk for all Jews. It's like the Germans saying, under Hitler, we talk for all Germans. My grandfather was a German. I think German was in the Red Army as an officer fighting against Hitler. You don't, but you know, all those people are suffering because of what Israel is saying and
Hmm.
doing.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. It's really created a division in the United States, and it's not going away. Um, in fact, I was writing an article the other day about anti-Semitism.
Hmm.
The reality is Palestinians are Semites.
Yeah, yeah,
Arabs are Semites.
yeah.
So if you hate Palestinians and Arabs, you're an anti-Semite, which makes by definition Bibi Netanyahu is one of the biggest anti-Semites in the world.
Yeah, yeah. They're all Semitic languages.
Yeah,
Hell, the Sumerians were Semites while
yeah.
we're at it. The Mesopotamians.
So yeah, so this effort to try to equate Semitism with Judaism is just again, it's another great heresy, fallacy.
Well, it's a race card. It's just meant to shut you up.
Yeah, go
So
back to our tribe matters more than your tribe kind of
yeah,
mentality.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I feel sorry for a lot of the people that don't support us, like some of the Holocaust survivors. They keep saying, we went through it. We don't want anybody else going through it, but these guys,
Correct.
but they're now all targets because of these idiots.
Yeah,
What they're
yeah,
doing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, it has consequences, unfortunately. Oh, did you hear about Merz is now demanding that Putin and the Russian government have a conscience and do a ceasefire
Yeah.
for Christmas. I'm assuming Catholic Christmas, not Orthodox Christmas, because Orthodox Christmas is 7th of January on the Gregorian calendar.
Well, I maintain that the Russian negotiating position, they need to amend it, add one other stipulation that any agreement with the West, particularly with the United States, must be a treaty that is ratified by the U.S. Senate.
Oh yeah.
Short of that, there will not be any agreement that the Russians can live by, because without the assurance that the American political process has insulated Russia from that, signing any kind of deal would be suicidal.
Well, we've seen that happen before. You guys go ahead and implement, and we'll get it through Congress. And then it just stalls out, and eventually Congress says,
Right,
no, we don't like this. Well, the other side's already been implementing for 10 years.
right, correct.
So, yeah, yeah. I think they do it on purpose.
Yeah, well, this the Trump and his team still do not understand the Russian position. And we've had within the last 24, 36 hours, I know that Sergei Rybkov was very direct about what it is, as well as Lavrov and Putin. So, uh, the Russian government is not split on this issue. They all see it the same way.
Well, answer me this. Why do they not understand this? I mean, it's a pretty straightforward position. It's black and white. There's no depth and Byzantine secrets involved here. It's just flat out, this is our position. What
Yeah,
is so difficult to understand about it?
they don't listen to Putin, and they don't think that Putin means what he says. I think it's that simple. It's crazy.
It is
I've
crazy.
said, hey, I'm not some brilliant analyst. I just listen, I listen to what he says and remember what he said, and then look it up and see what he wrote, and that's all the same. So,
Yeah.
uh, you know, Witkoff and Kushner and Trump, they don't do that.
Do you think it's a mental block in them, or do you think they're projecting their own personalities, being less than trustworthy?
I think it's a combination of both. Um, they don't take time to really read. Their mind is not open and asking the question, why? Why do the Russians believe this? Why are the Russians saying this? They assume that it's something that Russia can be negotiated out of. That it's just a matter of presenting them with the right deal. Um, so um, it reminds me of the scene. Uh, it wasn't. I think it was called The Piano Player
Yeah, yeah,
or
I know that movie.
The Pianist,
Hmm.
the one that was set in Poland
Yeah, yeah.
during World War II. And at one point, the pianist is in this concentration camp. He's on a work brigade, and this German officer comes up and starts talking about, "Hey, you Jews, you like the money, don't you?" So, thinking that they could buy this guy off. And, that's sort of how I see the West, like that fat German trying to bribe the Russians, and the Russians are saying, "No, we're not having any of that," because they know if they do, it's a death sentence.
It is. It is. Yeah, it's amazing because you're told, oh, it's like it's like dealing with a little kid. Mom, can I have the candy bar? No. Can I have the candy? No. 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 Okay.
Yeah,
Can I have the candy bar? It's just like that. It's like,
yeah,
how
yeah,
many times are you told no, and then, well, are you sure I can't have the candy bar? It just feels like dealing with little children instead of
yeah, yeah,
adults.
yeah. No, they refuse. They refuse to take no for an answer.
I think that used to be called date rape.
Yeah, yeah. No, listen, there
Uh,
is a real element that um, this is like being in an abusive relationship with a spouse that beats you up.
oh yeah.
you know, and at some point you got to say, this isn't working. Separating myself, we're going elsewhere. Uh, Particularly for I made the point with respect to Europe. Russia doesn't need a damn thing out of Europe, not a thing. Europe needs actually quite a bit from Russia, but is deliberately cutting itself off, and they're going to have to pay higher prices and ruin their economies.
I think that insults a lot of Europeans when they hear Russia say, "There's nothing you have that we want."
Yeah,
Period. Well, us? You don't want us? You don't want any of our stuff? No, no, we don't. So just
yeah,
go away.
completely irrelevant. Um, a hard lesson to learn, but that's a fact.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what has Europe got? What has modern Europe got to offer? Except for some old architecture that they're semi-destroying anyways. Unfortunately, to say that it's heart-wrenching watching that happen. Churches burning, things like that. But other than that, what has modern Europe got to
Yeah,
offer anybody?
yeah.
Well, except for third worlders that are getting a free meal and free spending money.
No significant natural resources. Uh, their status as sort of a center for education and scientific education in particular, that went away more than 80 years ago.
Yeah.
Uh, so they really, apart from being a place that tourists may like to go and visit for a historical sense, they offer nothing to the modern world.
Yeah. I don't even know if you want to go historically because I've been looking. I mean, I haven't been in Europe for the last 8 years for various reasons, but excuse me, I'm going to sneeze.
Yep, I know
Oh,
the feeling.
it passed. Um, but other than that, I mean, if you look at the just the pollution, the garbage, the homeless, I mean, do you really
Yeah,
want to visit that? Do you really want to see
yeah,
that?
yeah. I made my first or second trip to Paris back in 1996 when
Oh yeah,
the State Department asked me to go on a speaking tour through Germany and France talking about
cool,
terrorism.
very cool.
So I started in Braunschweig, went to Berlin, um, then into Stuttgart and Cologne, München, and then I went to Paris. And Paris was incredible in
Oh
1996.
yeah, first
My
time I was
my,
in Paris.
my wife accompanied me, and she got plantar fasciitis from walking around so much. But we went back then like 8 years later, and what an appalling change in just those 8 years. And it's
Oh
gotten
yeah,
worse since. As you pointed out, trash, dirt, filth, uh, and uh, they've done it to themselves.
of course.
And that's what's got Europe freaked out because the Trump administration started calling them out on it at the Munich Security Conference earlier this year, and then finished it off with this national security study that was just published that just excoriates the Europeans for destroying their cultural heritage with this, mindless support of unregulated immigration.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, there's a direct assault and destruction of any conservative culture in Europe, with degradation, the million genders and everything else. The whole woke agenda is being shoved down, and I don't know. Honestly, I don't blame the migrants. Why would I blame them? They're in for.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the Europeans that are giving them the free ride,
right.
right? So
Yeah,
who do you blame? The guys that taking advantage of a free meal, free pocket money, free apartment, and free everything else, or the guys that are doing it and giving
right,
it
right.
away?
Yeah, yeah. No, you're correct. Um, the self-inflicted wound,
Yeah,
and you got to ask why they're doing it,
yeah.
other than just to destroy themselves.
I can't believe it's just. I mean, there's stupidity and there's stupidity, but this has been going on for 50 years. I can't believe this is just stupidity.
Hmm.
And nobody can see that this isn't working.
Right, right.
So yeah, I think this is a targeted destruction or demolition of because it's happening in every single Christian country to some degree or another.
Well, that's where, and I wrote earlier this week as well about the views of Sergei Karaganov. And he started writing on that back in 2014, 2015, and proceeded into 2018, talking about the need, the recognizing that uh, previous Russian attempts to foster close relationships with the United States in particular and Europe in general were doomed to failure because of just the cultural transformation taking place in the West, which is not conducive to Christianity,
Right.
which was not conducive to building strong families, that it was promoting a lifestyle and attitude that was destructive, and that
Yeah.
Russia's future lay in the East.
Yeah.
And I think his views have he's been vindicated by subsequent events.
And it's horrible to watch. I mean, it's
Yeah.
really, really horrible to watch. I mean, if you've never seen Europe in the older days, in the 90s, even early 2000s, I mean, look at it now, if you've seen the older. But yeah, you look at some of the videos from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s.
Hmm.
The 80s. I mean, my God, it's clean, it's civilized, and it's not just migrants. You don't have gangs, you don't have graffiti, you don't have the street trash
Right,
that
right.
includes they're very Europeans themselves. It's very civilized,
Yeah,
manicured.
that's gone away.
Horrible. And and you can even see from the videos that it's well maintained. So there's a working government there,
Right.
and it's all gone.
Yeah. Well, it can come back, and what I uphold as an example of that is what's happened to Russia over the course of the
Yes,
last
yes,
35 years. That Russia descended into hell in the 1990s, and then was resurrected from that hell and has come back to life.
yeah. Well, I hope so. I hope so. But I'm holding out less and less hope as time goes on because it just seems to be going in one direction. Larry, I want to thank you. We're almost out of time. I want to thank everybody who joined. Uh, Always a pleasure talking with you. And
Hey, my friend.
I'm waiting for you to get back here so
Yeah.
we can burn some more meat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could do barbecue with this winter. I can still do barbecue outside.
Well, and you got your wife's a great cook, but that's what you get for marrying a Georgian.
Yeah, yep, yep. Every meal, well, I can't say every meal in our house is a feast, but whenever we have guests, it's definitely a feast.
Yeah, definitely a feast. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. All right, my friend. Hey, thanks so
Yep.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right,
Waiting for you
all
to
right, brother.
come. Yep. Cheers.
Look forward to seeing. I'll probably be back in January, so I'll see you in
Good,
January.
good. Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
Take care. Bye.
Yep. Cheers.